Hello and welcome to The Life You're Made For. I'm your host, Dr. Heather Penny. Often our world feels reactive, confusing, and chaotic. On this show, we're going to slow down together. Take a breath, listen, and learn. We'll be joined in conversations with influential thinkers who will help us make new connections, understand our unique potential, check the beliefs we hold, and learn how to overcome unexpected challenges. I know that each and every one of us holds our own inner clarity, confidence, and courage, what I call 3C living and leading. So let's go after it together. I'm cheering you on. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to have my new friend who feels like an old friend, but I love his work in the field. Brian Taylor's with us today. And Brian, before I ask you to jump in and introduce yourself, I am going to introduce you first because I want them to know what kind of guests we have today. And when you sent over your bio, I just loved it. It was very relationally written where it says you talked about believing in performance as a path to fulfillment until you realize that it was just pushing you and making you go faster and farther. And it made you really, what you used your words as slammed into the wall that many high capacity leaders eventually face. And you begin to really face a whole new paradigm shift. On paper, you say you looked unstoppable, but behind the scenes, you were running on fumes. Oh my gosh, I can relate. I think most of us can. The cost was real. It was burnout, and it was people who mattered that were getting the worst of me. And then you talk about what the shift is what happened, and we're going to get into that. Like, what was that shift? And then I loved how you ended your bio too, where you talk about now what you do is you help other leaders make that same shift without having to crash first through custom consulting, executive coaching, and strategic advising, which is the field that I'm in. And Brian, this is why I wanted to have you on my show. And listeners, you know, my promise to you is I vet each person personally, and I don't bring them on unless I personally respect them and I love what they're doing in the field. And it's something that can really help us all learn and grow. So it's a little selfish because I want to learn and grow too. And I'm very curious about that. So Brian, I'll just pass the ball over to you. Tell us a little bit of who you are and what you're about.
Yeah, first, Heather, thank you. We've had this one on the books for a while just to get schedules aligned, and I have been so looking forward to it. Now, I'm for months at this point to get to this space, and so it's a joy to be with you and with your audience of listeners. Yeah, I mean, I would tell you the reality is I know firsthand what it's like to look like a great leader, and in many ways to actually be functioning like one in some regards. But then my whole internal world, like the people that were mattering most to me were and still are my wife and our two kiddos, and they're not really kiddos anymore at 16 and 12. They have their own lives. But I remember the days of where they just were last on the list. And I thought to myself, there has to be a better way to do what I think I've been put on this planet to do at a very high level and not trade what was happening. You know, I'm in my house today. This is my office at home. It's like what was happening in here had to be as important, if not more important than whatever else was happening out there. And for me, that all started with, you know, there was some stuff happening inside. We can go back to like family of origin and, you know, early childhood. You know, that early learning is never erased. I learned as a kid to perform and to stay out of the way otherwise. And I took that very same thought into marriage and into leadership, and I just would perform, and then otherwise I would kind of stay out of the way, and it just didn't serve me very well. And so, I've been looking forward to diving into that and leadership. But like you mentioned, primarily I work with, if I could sum it up, I work with CEOs, helping them build optimized high-performance teams that drive sustainable strategic growth. So how do you scale without losing the soul of your organization, the soul of your leadership? You know, we want to partner those two things together.
Oh, love that. And listeners, you can see why I brought him on. I'm already thinking gray space. And then a lot of what I do, and I call it meeting people at the crossroads. All of a sudden there comes this moment in our life, and maybe it's this midlife, what we call crisis, but I like to call it midlife opportunity, where we've been doing life for a certain way for a certain time. But then I like how you use that word of you slammed into kind of this brick wall and you're realizing this is no longer working. So using that idea of the crossroads, like what was the path behind you that when you got to that crossroad that you're realizing, I have some options here to make. I don't want to keep going on this path. I need to start to either looking at left or going right. I
Yeah.
need to start looking at a different way. What was that like, and where'd you come from?
So I wish that I could say that I got to that crossroads with like the most beautiful epiphany, where everything was going so well and it was just like choosing between the best options. But
Yeah.
the truth is, I mean, quite practically, my marriage was failing.
Mm.
I was an present but absent
Mhm.
dad.
Mhm.
And, for any of the dads, working moms listening, it's really easy for you to be at the dinner table, but your mind to be somewhere else, to have your phone in your hand and your kids are telling you
Mhm.
about your day and you're getting notifications. I mean, it's like the quintessential, I would be a recovering workaholic is how I would describe myself. The path
Yeah.
behind me was a lot of workaholism. And because I was working in a space that was very much mission driven, people oriented, kind of
Mhm.
high sense of, man, this work I'm doing really matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
That it was easy for me to justify
Yep.
working the hours that I was working and disregarding my marriage, disregarding my kids. And I didn't even realize
Mm.
that I was doing as a kid. I had on the surface, it would not seem to be like a highly traumatic environment, but emotionally and internally, but just because of some of the things that I navigated,
Mm.
I adopted some really unhealthy coping patterns. And I didn't realize that those survival qualities, those survival instincts, I didn't realize that there was a point I actually needed to let them go and
Mm.
adopt new strategies. And so the wall came because I was absolutely miserable in the middle of a wildly successful life.
Oh,
And that
wow.
is
Mhm.
and my background, I spent a lot of time on stages, lot of time in front of a lot of people with a lot of applause and a lot of celebration. And you'd come off those stages and it's
Mhm.
like walking into a dark hole. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay, well, I got to put on a mask, got to put on a face.
Mhm.
And that was, 3-year-old Brian. That was
Mm.
20-year-old Brian. That was 30-year-old Brian. I mean, you can see the pattern
Yeah.
continuing to go.
Oh, well said. I'm resonating a lot with what you're saying, and I think
Yeah.
a lot of our listeners are, because usually that's where we find people, and probably in the work
Hmm.
that you do and the work that I do. We work with very high potential, amazing individuals that if life continued to working the way they needed it to work, they wouldn't be reaching out. But
Yeah.
life stops working and we're
Yes.
just so disoriented because we got the kudos before. We got the
Yeah.
performance gold stars, so to
Yes.
speak. And then all of a sudden you start feeling this almost this internal
Hmm.
incongruence where even though everyone else might be applauding you, and I'm
Yeah.
thinking about the work that I did as an educator, which is human services, like serving
Hmm.
humanity. I mean, any greater calling than teaching our
Right.
next
Oh, yeah.
generation, right? And how you can justify that workaholism that I too have struggled with as well,
Yeah.
that addiction almost to work, but then that it's really worse. You can justify it if you're serving humanity. I guess I want to ask you, I like that you saw the grief that you were feeling inside, or maybe the
Hmm.
incongruence that you were living. But what were some things that were happening? Like if you look back now, I mean, hindsight's always
Yeah.
2020, right? As you
Hmm.
look back now, what were some significant flags that you wish you would have paid attention to before?
Yeah. I think the most significant flag is I was hearing pretty regularly from
Mm,
my wife that things were not going well.
mm,
And she is an amazing woman who is long suffering and very gracious. And we're from the East Coast, right? So I live in
mm,
Dallas now. We've been here the last 8 years, but we're from the East Coast. And so we speak very plainly, very directly. So this wasn't something that I would say I had to go on a journey to discover
mm-hmm,
as much as it was I had to recognize that I was actually actively avoiding that realization for a long time. I justified, I was defensive with it. She just didn't get it. That was what I was telling myself, right? Clearly, look at all these people that are being impacted, these teams that are being built, and this mission that's advancing. Well, what does it matter if I worked an extra 30 or 45 minutes? Or what does it matter if we haven't been on a date, or we haven't had an in-depth conversation, or there's all kinds of misalignment in our home because we're not we're not rowing in the same direction. And the signs for me the signs were very clear. I just chose to not see them.
Wow.
And when I saw them, I chose to discount them. And I can look back and see that. I didn't have the emotional toolbox that when we got married, we were very young. When I started in leadership, I was very young, like fresh out of high school, basically. I jumped out of college to jump into a leadership position. And it was, there's so much that no one taught me, no one told me. The organizations, not in any malicious way, but they honestly didn't care early on what was happening behind the performance. They only cared about the outcomes. They only cared about the results, and the results were generally really, really good. And so that conflicting voice, the maybe a manager, a boss, a leader, an executive saying, you are amazing, you're doing a fantastic job. And then at home, my wife is going, where are you? We need you. And, you come home from dealing, being in front of 2,000 people, and there's trash and dishes and chores and diapers.
Real life. And I just, I ignored it. I wish I could blame anything else, but there's not, I'm not a big fan of blame, but I am a big fan of taking ownership of the part that I played. Yes.
And the part that I played was that I ignored very real signs, like the communication. And then internally, I'd always felt out of sync. It's the best way I could describe it. Like that success, that performance, the high was so fleeting because I actually didn't care. Because what was happening in here, there wasn't fulfillment. So it was like, wow, you just won the lottery. And then you're like, I don't care. It doesn't, and I don't know why. I just know it's not resonating. But the drive to perform was a pathway that was, it was embedded, and it was really hard to break out of.
And that's when you're talking, it just made me think of the word integrity. It takes us a while, and I'm going to put all my fingers pointing back. I'm not putting this on you, Brian, but it takes us a while to really look at ourselves in the mirror and honor the reflection that we're seeing.
Yeah.
So to your point, when we do that, that's that integrity, and that incongruence between your internal world feeling unfulfilled and your external world being a superstar feeling, right?
Yeah.
It's a sick feeling in the pit of your stomach. Because at the end of the day, or that what I call the 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yes.
That life is not working, and you're not only posing, but it's costing you the very things that you say you value.
Yes.
And to be able to really stop and look at that, it's incredibly vulnerable, uncomfortable, because it's so much funner.
It really is.
Right? To reach for the applause.
Yes.
But to your point, to come back at home and do the mundane, but you can see where, oh my gosh, that's living out of a false self. That's living out of an ego that neither of us would be proud of at the end of the day.
Yes.
And I too have done this. That's why I say all my fingers pointing back. And that's why I was really excited to interview you today, because I work with such phenomenal leaders. In fact, right before we got on this call, I was working with 2 executive leaders, and we opened up the conversation with accurate self-reflection to grow self-awareness. And then we all started laughing because we're like, I know, sometimes we don't like hearing it. I go, I know. I pay people, and sometimes I want to fire them because I'm like, I don't like what you just told me, and I'm going to have to now face this.
Yeah.
And even just joking, one of the leaders said, and sometimes I don't face it because I'm not ready to.
Because I'm not ready.
Yeah. And I appreciate that honesty so much. So I guess that's where I want to go. What made you say, I'm ready to face this?
Yeah. I got so down, and depression looks a little bit different in a lot of high performers, because I've never really been the, some people might say they find their will to stop working and they want to lay in bed, or they just don't want to engage. For me, the opposite was true. I actually pressed the gas and went harder. And it's almost like I'm gonna will myself through this, and I don't care the carnage is irrelevant. I'm not going to be seen as ineffective. I'm not going to be seen as, whatever things I was dealing with. And I think that's why that was a brick wall. I think I could have had a much softer landing had I been paying attention to the very gracious people that were around me that could see through it. There's not a lot of them. But I went in. So I hit a point where mentally I was so almost like frantic internally. There's like this frantic mental pace. I was struggling with my focus. I was, I thought maybe is it like late case ADHD or something, something like that. And my wife was like, you need to go get it. Like, you need to go get an assessment. I'm like, okay. So I did a neuropsych assessment, and it's like, either they're going to tell me I'm absolutely crazy or everybody else is wrong. For me, there's not going to be anything in the middle.
Yeah.
And the assessment went really great. And the clinician was like, this is interesting. Like, you're finishing exercises that people don't normally finish. You're really smart. You don't have a focus problem. And then, whatever you see in all the shows, like, tell me about your childhood or tell me about your upbringing. And I got about a minute and a half in, and she stopped me and she said, okay, so I think there's someone here that you should talk to. And that therapist was functioning in a modality that was for PTSD, for sort of people that have navigated. And she very gently helped me unravel this big ball of mess that I had all but blocked out. And I mean, when I tell you it came on hard and fast, that wall, it was an internal wall that, I just slammed into. The way she described it is, Brian, for the totality of your life, you've been assembling jars, and your superpower was to keep lids on those jars in an endless storage unit. And that particular chapter of my life had knocked over one jar, but that one jar had hit the one around it. And now, all at once, all the lids were coming off the jar. And it was the most difficult, most painful thing I've ever had to navigate. And simultaneously, the freedom that I experienced of being able to finally put a name on something, or to say, okay, like, this is actually what it is. And some of these instances, little Brian is showing up. Some of these instances, I just don't want to accept that this is this is a part of my story. This is a part of, and I've been running away from it, or I've been trying to keep it hidden, keep it beaten down. And so that journey, that was a monumental moment for me, of sitting with all those jars as the lids were flying off and glasses exploding, and to be able to sit with it, not sit in it, just sit with it, and have somebody sit with it with me that actually had the tools to guide me through it, which really activated for me, oh man, if I deal with that, then there have to be other people. And I'm not a therapist. I don't try to be a therapist, but this work that we do, it kind of dips its toe into some conversations that can feel a bit like therapy. And I said, no one should have to walk this alone.
Well said.
No one.
No. Oh, so well said. I love that. I too am not a therapist, and I know what you mean by that. Like, we value the process of therapy, but boy, the process of coaching is to allow yourself to start moving forward and not just stay in therapy. And I have loved both processes. I always say therapy is the process of looking back and coaching is the process of looking forward. But you're saying something that I've heard a very common theme with all my high performing leaders. There's a reason why we're running hard. Something is chasing us. And until we slow down and look at what's chasing us, we're going to hit that leadership lid.
Yeah.
And we can feel it, but I'm with you, Brian. We're just too doggone strong.
I know.
To actually
it's
go,
the worst, isn't it?
Oh, this is a little uncomfortable. Maybe I should slow down and listen to these really wise, discerning people around me. We look at them like, no, you're the problem, not me.
Yeah. Oh, those low performers.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And it's our ego starts taking over, saying, push harder, do more. What's really happening is that deep insecurity and fear is starting to rise up because it's starting to come out. Yeah. And it's starting to say, hey, you're running too hard, too fast. Yeah. You're running over people. Yes. You're becoming further and further apart from who you are really made to be internally. And you're feeling it. Yeah. When the applause dies down, when all the focus dies down, when you step off that stage, when you're home by yourself, you don't like who you are. Yeah. But it's such a vulnerable place to be. And I will say, I talk about clarity, confidence, courage. I watch my leaders grapple with that. Yeah. And it's like, it's one of the most courageous things to do, to take a look at that and to recognize what's been chasing you. Yeah. And I call it the false beliefs because it's things that got embedded in our younger years or sometimes just early leadership years. I too was a very young leader. And so the terror of failing and disappointing people really made me push harder than I should have until I hit my own brick wall. And I'm like, I don't think this is sustainable. I mean, 2 and 2 are 4 here. Logic was just starting to say, this is not sustainable.
This is not,
doing this tap dancing for people, even though they're all really happy. Yeah. I had to learn to start reaching out to different types of mentors. Yes. Because I was really gravitating to the performance ones because, they made me feel good.
They make you feel good, yes.
Yeah. And they were tapping into my potential. In a lot of ways, they weren't wrong. I don't want to put any of them down. They saw my potential. What they weren't seeing was the incongruency of what was chasing me. It's one thing to be high performing and it's just you're in the zone and that's what you're made to do. It's another thing to be high performing and you're doing it out of a place of just this haunting or something chasing me and this false belief of I have to be perfect or I can't disappoint. I call it the tap dancing. What was chasing you?
That's a great question. What was chasing me was actually me. So I had become such a chameleon. That's the word I would use. That I got to a point where I didn't know who I was. I didn't like to sit with my thoughts. I didn't like to explore my story or my journey. I didn't like to be confronted. I didn't like to do things that might confront me. Like when I was a kid, if I wasn't good at something, like the first time, like I just didn't like it. It wasn't that I wasn't good. I just didn't like it. I didn't need to do that. And so I was actually chasing me. It might be a little bit different of a frame or lens, but for me, I was trying to catch up with myself, but I was scared what might happen if I did. Because I think somewhere there was the aspect of me that knew who I was and knew what I could be and what I was called to be, and that I did not have to trade. A lot of times they say slow down. Slow down does not work for the high. I'm not, even today, I'm not what anyone would consider slow in my in my overall pace. Yeah. But there is still a rhythm that is required to sustain the kind of sprint and marathon that, I go back and forth. And so what was chasing me was the part of me that would have to admit I wasn't doing a good job.
Oh, isn't that terrifying?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And when it caught up to me, it was... it grabbed me. It didn't, that wasn't gracious. That one felt like someone grabbed me by the neck and started to choke me because I had to come to terms with every area. It had to be holistic. So I had to sit and say, okay, because I'm failing here, I'm failing everywhere. And the inside is not right. The marriage and home life is not right. Whatever's happening is a failure because foundationally I'm misaligned. My identity is misaligned. And then once all of that, got a big wrecking ball on it, then we put the pieces back in place, but in the right order and in the right way. And that gave me the confidence to go from avoiding me to actually embracing me and saying, okay, Brian, that's what you had to do 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I've got you now. Like we actually can navigate this without that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a much better way. And it took a couple of years of work to get to the point where I accepted it. And since then, it's just been now building on it.
That's beautiful. I so resonate with that. I think it was a time where I realized I had to embrace my sense of self. And I had to start asking myself, what do you think about this? What do you feel about this opportunity?
Yes.
Do you want to say yes to it, or do you want to say no to it? Or are you just saying yes because you don't want to see that disappointment on their face? Or are you saying yes because your fear of being irrelevant?
Yes.
Or you're saying yes because of you're afraid they'll never get asked again. I mean, these were things I had to grapple with and to sit in that silence indefinitely.
Yeah.
You wonder if your performance that you love was wrong. And to watch it get integrated back in again, I totally get that. I don't slow down either, but boy, it comes from a different place.
Yes.
Right? And so that's what I want to talk about. What's that new rhythm like? Because I had to create a new rhythm as well.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to, so I'm pretty routine, like ritual oriented. I don't like the word routine because it feels a little bit more rut sometimes for certain people. So words, routine might work for some of the listeners. For me, I think of it more as a ritual that it's like I'm reminding myself of what's important. I'm reminding myself of the things that matter. And for me, that has to be every day because I will, if left to my own devices, still drift back because it's an easy thing for me to get into, especially, I work from home, like I said earlier. And so it's not like I have a commute. Sometimes I get on planes, I go to DFW, but otherwise this is my office and right there is my house.
Yeah.
Because, it's like right there outside that door, in a few hours from now will be my kids or right now my dogs trying to get in, and so I can stay in here and no one's going to turn the lights off and tell me to go home. I run, I get the opportunity to run most all of my existence. And so I have to start each day going, here's what you value. Here's who you're becoming. Here are the big rocks that you've put in the jar that have to go there first. And for me, that takes about an hour and a half every morning. It's like I have to get up before everyone because I'm future oriented. So I tend to live, I'm like in the end of 2026 as we're recording this mentally. And it's, so coming back to today, the presence that's required to steward today well, I have to start the mornings there. So that's a huge part of it. The other one for me was I had to find a place to put some of the excess energy. So I adopted working out every day, every single day. I had to, because even at the end of the day, I have a ton of energy that if left, if I don't direct it, it's not going to go to something that's helpful. It's going to go to like, let me go knock out this project now that everybody's asleep, or let me, go and jump into my email inbox, get a head start of the day. So lots of strength training and lots of long walks, long talking to myself walks, which I do keep earbuds in, as I'm walking around my neighborhood, because people are going to be like, what's wrong with this dude? But those rhythms, and then, a day of no work, I would say a Sabbath, right? A day where there is, I cannot be productive in the way that I am Monday through Friday. So I do a lot on those days because I work with my brain a bunch. I work with my hands on the Sabbath. So we'll get out in the yard. We'll do things that are still productive, but not close to what I'm doing in the week. I mean, those are just, two or three of the things that have become integral to my daily life that keep me from drifting, like I said, back towards patterns, and focal points for the day. Because even when I get there, I can tell because it skews my whole perspective of the day. I start to feel that gnaw, that sense of incompleteness, and I got to prove myself. And then nothing is ever what I want it to be. And you start to hear all that language come in to the day. And that kind of start of the day really has a huge impact.
I so resonate with that as well. At everything. Yeah. I finally actually hired a trainer just because I was not lifting hard enough. Yeah. And I knew it. And I was like, I need to get my own coach to help me.
It's the simple things. Yeah. I mean, sometimes people ask you questions like that. I don't have any earth shattering. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like, journal. Yeah. For me, I read my Bible, I journal and pray, and I go move my body. And it's like, if I can do those two things, they're keystones for me. There's a bunch of others that I love. I got a great calendar system and all that stuff. But the high performers never really struggle with building systems. No. We do struggle, or tend to struggle, with the internal stuff and the ordering of the inside world. Right. External is pretty easy.
Yeah. I love how you said that. It's what I call my grounding exercises. Yes. Because it is so easy to just get distracted by all the fun things. Yes. That really can sync up with your expertise, your talents, your skill sets. But before I say yes, I have to do that. Otherwise, I don't have the clarity of the why behind the yes. And I've gone down that road before where I said yes to too many things. And it was based on a false belief instead of a true belief, or it was based on my ego versus my authentic self, however you want to phrase it. And so starting the morning with something for your mind, something for your soul, something for your body, totally get that. And boy, I feel out of sync when I can't do that. I just got off of traveling for a couple days and woke up this morning. It was good to be home, and I was trying to get back into my rituals that I call as rituals as well. And I just felt myself fatigued because as much as I loved this traveling the last 3 days, I had lost some of those rituals, and so I could feel it. So I had to spend a little extra time this morning, and I think
it doesn't feel efficient.
No, doesn't it?
It does not. It does.
Wasting time, aren't we, Brian?
Wasting time.
Yes.
I still fight that.
Yes, I do too.
And I'm like, nope, what I need to do today is I need another 15 minutes here. Yep. I need to finish this thought in my journal, because if I don't, it's going to be an open loop through my day. And by the end of the day, I'm going to have brain fog because I've used all of this willpower and processing power on this open loop that, might require me move my day 15 minutes, which for me, you get it. Same probably for you. 15 minutes is a big deal in my day. Like a 15 whole minutes, I can get a lot accomplished. A lot, so but it doesn't feel efficient.
It doesn't, especially when you're used to your hour and a half, and then you have to take 2 hours.
Yes.
I literally got up from the couch and I turned to my husband, and he was coming down from his home office upstairs and saying, I said, "Oh, I'm so disappointed in myself today." I was kind of joking. And I was like, he goes, "Why?" I go, I wanted to get my workout on. I have an early client start this morning. I had it planned out, but I ended up sitting on the couch for 2 hours. And he's like, "Have grace on yourself, Heather. Remember, you probably needed that." And he knows my tendency to overachieve. And I'm like, you're right. You're right. To your point, it felt so unproductive. But again, it's that unkindness that starts to creep in that says, pull it together. Well, if I stop and look at it, I'm like, no, I've came home late from the plane at 10 p.m. and I've been on the road since Thursday, and it's Monday now, and I had an early start. It's okay that you took that 2 hours.
Yes.
I know you had plans to take 30 minutes. But I needed that 2 hours.
You needed it.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone into my day the way I wanted to go into it. And I wouldn't have had the conversations, which I have stacked up today. And each one I was looking forward to. Yes. Each one I wanted to make sure I come with my full sense of self, whatever I needed. Had I followed my plan or agenda and put myself back on that hamster wheel, I wouldn't give myself what I really needed. And that's something I'm hearing you talk about, is just you're checking in with yourself that says, what do I actually need? What is it that needs attention? And part of when I work with leaders at this level, I call it their Thrive Plan. What do you need daily? What do you need weekly? What do you need monthly? What do you need annually? Daily is at least an hour, something you're doing for yourself. Weekly is a couple more hours. Like just take a break. To your point, the Sabbath. I too take a Sabbath where it's like zero productivity. There's no have-tos in that day.
Yes.
And it's amazing the things that I actually want to do. And then all of a sudden I'll feel that guilt. And I'm like, no, I want to do this.
Yes.
But I'm staying away from the shoulds and the have-tos.
Yes.
So I'm very conscious of that, and then the monthly is like a full day, sometimes even an overnighter. And then the annual is several days.
Yes.
Where you've taken just a weekend, a retreat for yourself. So that cadence it is so important to keep these high achievers grounded, because what starts happening is their life starts dissolving. And I think what hit me is, I came to some of that brick wall a little bit in my 30s. I'm in my 50s now. Well, then things started moving along and everything. Probably, I'm 55 now. In my early 50s, I started getting a lot of success. All these things started creeping back in. And I was like, you've dealt with this before. But one of the false beliefs I had is, you just need half hour, 45 minutes. That's what I needed when my world was quieter, right?
Back then.
Right.
Yes.
What I need now, to your point, is sometimes an hour, 2 hours, and sometimes even longer if I've been traveling or going to travel or going to do a speaking thing. Having that awareness of what you need. How do you...
And you talk, the permission.
The permission.
To giving yourself permission to, okay, I'm going to recalibrate.
Yes.
You talked about a midlife crisis earlier. I consider mine to be, I think I've had a couple of them, because my first one was early.
Yeah.
I started young. So it was like, I got like a pre-midlife. So when I actually had the midlife crisis, it really was a midlife recalibration. Like that's how I've viewed it. It's like when you run an engine or you run something for so long, and it's like it gets to the point where it's clunky and it's noisy and it's not, you go, wait, I need to get this thing in the shop, and we need to go through this checklist and recalibrate the things that have just been pulled out of alignment, so we can get this vehicle going back on the road smooth and easy. So for me, that midlife kind of recalibration is scary in some ways. I mean, there's, if I'm being honest, especially when it requires you to make really impactful decisions about things and certain opportunities, certain connections, certain relationships. You realize they no longer fit. What's there, certain yeses that you used to give no longer fit. But if you can bear with the recalibration process, what's on the other side of it is much more aligned with who you are today than who you were when you didn't need. I mean, I see it with organizations all the time. It's actually like the first thing we do in our work is like, we have to get calibrated. We have to get some context happening here. For the high performers listening, you are probably bringing the same thing to the way you're leading your teams and your organizations, right? It's why you have the cute values on the wall that nobody actually follows, lives into. It's kind of just, we like to say it and we don't like to challenge it, because we realize that as much as we're celebrating that part of the culture of the organization, there's a whole other list of things we're tolerating that are actually pointing to what's really happening, right? So this is not just personal or individual, but it has to start there if you want to do whatever else you want to do with your team, with your organization. Both have to go through that recalibration process for you as a leader to fully be in sync and to be fully aligned, from an identity and a purpose perspective, and then the performance layer.
I love that. I'm thinking again about my mornings. So everything you're saying is like, wow, yeah, this morning has just been a really good modeling of me going through a lot of things. From my morning time on the couch, I needed longer than I usually did. And it cost me my plan to work out, which I'll have to figure out how to do a little later, but moved me right into my first conversation. I hired this writing coach because I want that integrity. And it's something that I've learned. There's certain people I need in my life to help me ground myself, especially when I'm trying to do that next level or that next growth. And I'm finishing up my next book that I'm working on now, and I know who I want to turn to. What is the type of person that you turn to? What is some of the attributes or characteristics they hold that help you ground you and get you out of that performance mode of do more, do more, do more? I already know who I cannot turn to, right? Like the type of person I cannot turn to. and I know what's good for me to keep me grounded. Talk to me a little bit about what that looks like for you.
Yeah, for me, the person that I turn to is the one that's the least impressed with me. That's been my favorite, So my wife, of course, is biggest fan, cheerleader. I mean, but she's not impressed. You know
So's
what I'm
my
saying?
husband. Yeah.
She's super proud of me, and she tells me all the time.
Yeah.
But if I need a real, like, give me a real snapshot, like an opinion on this, she's going to give me the real deal thing. Outside of her, the one who sees and understands, when I'm looking for coaches or even the therapists that I've worked with through the years, they all have that very kind but direct quality that I feel like I can fool a lot of people, to be honest with you. Part of that chameleon, the ability, I mean, I had a bank of scripts. So when I took my first, there's a number of assessments and things I've done through the years. And when I took my first emotional intelligence assessment, my empathy was nearly unmeasurable, and there were probably people that experienced that. But by and large, if you would have talked to someone, they would have been like, man, Brian is so easy to talk to. He listens so well. He responds with such care and compassion and integrity. And it's like, someone is sitting across from me. Let's say they're broken down in tears. I'm internally at that point having zero response. There's nothing there. But what I do have was that bank of scripts that I could pull from and say, it's like a decision tree. Someone is crying. Yes. Okay. Let's go ahead and respond with some sort of acknowledgement and consideration. Did they stop? No. Let's go back and give them some encouragement. Right. And it was just happening. So I know it sounds so terrible. And truly, it really was. I wasn't doing it on purpose though. And so I can do that. I fooled a bunch of therapists. I fooled a bunch of coaches, but I found the ones that I could not fool. If I could stick with how offensive it was for me, for them to call me out, those were exactly the people that I needed to help me get the ship back on course, which is what, for the work you and I do. This is the role I feel as a strategic advisor, as a consultant for these businesses, these CEOs that I'm working with. Like, I have to be that voice. And we talk about that early on. If you are looking for someone that is just going to put wind in your sails and fan the flame all the time so that you can, that's not me. We're going to do that.
Right.
But we're going to work constructively to make sure that you are actually becoming who you want to be in the middle of doing all the things that we know you have to do. So those are the people. I mean, okay, who do you turn to? Who are the people that you find yourself seeking out?
I love what you said first about those that aren't impressed with you. My husband is not impressed with you.
Yes.
But is my biggest fan after 33 years and my dearest friend. So he's one that will always tell me the truth.
Yeah.
He'll tell me if it's ego. He'll tell me if I say, here's what I want to work on, he gets it. And he'll say, yeah, even like this morning, he's like, have grace on yourself. That's all he said. He kept walking into the kitchen to get himself some breakfast. But he's just like, just have grace on yourself. I'm like, yep, that's what I need. And then I'm very strategic about who I hire professionally. Yeah. It could be this writing coach, which I just adore, and I've worked with her for years. And she tells me the truth. And we opened up the conversation with just some of the challenges around marketing and how I'm not going to play that game and how I'm self-publishing. And she's like, I'm right there with you, Heather. And I was like, I don't even know if I'm doing this right, but this is what I feel like I'm supposed to do. She's like, I think you're right on. Let's go ahead. She's someone that helps pull out my authentic sense of self and helps me stop listening to all the other noises. She's not afraid to stand solo with me, even though we're not following the formula.
Yes.
And I frankly don't know how this is going to turn out, but at least I know this is me.
Yes.
And I'm never going to have to feel bad about that. So I don't want the next person to tell me the pop and sizzle of I've got to get 80,000 followers. And I've had
all the cookie cutter stuff
And I got told all of that. And that's where I lost myself for a couple of years launching my first book. And then I realized, first of all, none of it's working. And that's where I feel like that is a gift when things stop working.
Yes.
Because it also wasn't working for me internally. It was creating this chaos. So I lean toward people with peace. You can feel their centeredness. You can feel their authenticity. You can feel like on one hand cheering you on and on the other hand telling you hard truth.
Yes.
But you don't feel like you're getting eviscerated by the hard truth, because I frankly cannot handle that.
Sure.
It's too much, right? But I need to hear the hard truth, but I need to hear it with love and kindness. And so they have this capacity to tell me exactly what I need to hear, but at the same hand, they're doing it in a context of, because I believe in you.
Yeah.
And that's what I do for my clients. Makes all the difference. Right. Yeah. Like, we believe in them. And so oftentimes I will tell people, I'm going to say something hard here. And I said this not too long ago. I looked into the camera and I said, I'm going to say something pretty hard here, but we're going to get through this. And it was powerful. And we're still great connection to this day. And I think that sometimes I give it as a preface of saying, I want to tell you this because I care and I believe that you will be better for it.
Yes.
Then I also try and back off and say, it's your choice. I respect the choice. And I think that's the other thing too. Just because you have the truth doesn't mean you move into control either. I'm very sensitive to that. So anyone who starts trying to control me or decide they have an agenda for how they want to mentor me, that kicks me out of there too. Where I'm like, this is between me, myself, and my God. Let me take this and grapple with it. Thank you for giving me, I see it as a buffet table. I showed up at this buffet line and I was like, all right, you're recommending me to take the mashed potatoes over the roasted potatoes. Let me think about that a minute. Let me try that on. Yeah. So the people who respect.
Because you always wondered what would happen if I'd gotten the roasted potatoes instead of the mashed potatoes.
Exactly.
I need to be okay with it because I'm the one that has to live with that decision.
So I need to feel that respect. And that's super important. My self-agency is really respected and there's no agenda. I can sniff out agendas like that. Yeah. So as a coach, I also try and give the same courtesy. Like, these are your choices and your options. It's the way I write. Here's your choices and your options. Go and be who you need to be with this and decide if or when you want to integrate this or if this is part of where you're feeling truth. So people feel that respect to be able to choose.
Yes.
I've loved this conversation, Brian. I feel like we could talk all day.
It's great. We have so many similarities and so many. Yeah. Yes. I feel like I had that conversation. I slept in a little bit longer than I normally would, which is, I know everybody is just, what? That's how I felt. I gave myself a whole 45 minutes or an hour longer because I went to bed late and I woke up in the morning. I was like, I should have been up earlier. My wife was like, hey, we have this saying, don't should on yourself, so it's like, I had that same conversation this morning. She's like, you need that. And I'm actually proud of you for doing that because I know it's really hard for you to sleep in. And it really is. It really is. So I feel like
thank God for our spouses, huh?
Right? 100%.
Yeah, the people that help us stay grounded in what I call our true beliefs, because the false beliefs are, I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't get up and get going. I wish, I felt so unproductive to take that extra 45 minutes.
Yeah.
These are these false beliefs we tell ourselves and keep us on that hamster wheel. So as we start wrapping up, I know there's people listening to us that they've either maybe hit the brick wall. They might feel this rumbling in their gut because they're hearing something and they may not be totally ready to hear it, but they kind of know truth when they hear it. So we send all sorts of grace and compassion to you. And then there's people that are saying, wow, I like what they're saying, but boy, how do I make sure I see the flag sooner? I guess I just want to say, how do we just encourage our listeners no matter where they are on this journey?
Yeah, I would say the best thing for me, and you may consider this, was I like to find a skills-based, so I don't know if this is what they actually call them, but the skills-based therapist versus standard talk therapy. I did talk therapy a bunch, and I ended up just talking. It's like, it's okay, it's great. Process. I'm a verbal processor at times, situationally. But I think when you're processing those internal things in particular, the therapist that I worked with CBT, is cognitive behavioral therapy with for PTSD. I think it was either CBT or CPT. I've seen both, but the one but that's we processed and we talked, but again, the equipping with the skills and she gave me a toolbox I just didn't have. I feel about coaches the best, the way I feel about the therapist is at some point I need you to not need me as intensely as you did when we started, unless we're tackling something new.
Yeah.
But if we're showing up 18 months later and we're still in the same place, talking through the same thing, one of two things is happening or not happening, you or me. So neither one of those are a win. So I think that would be the first is the other thing I like about therapists is there's the confidentiality. And for a lot of leaders leading at a high level, who can you talk to about some of these things that, sometimes you just have to pay someone that's bound by confidentiality to help you process that. And then I would say the same thing from like if your external stuff is happening, that's where you bring in, a Heather, Brian, someone that, can provide a very similar resource to you in terms of a safety net. But like you said, with that gentle prod to keep moving towards alignment, to keep moving towards, the worst thing I would say a leader could do is continue in isolation.
Well said.
That's the absolute worst thing for you. Nothing, all that happens in that silence is your hope gets more and more suffocated. And eventually you will run out of air. Or it could be more like the sinkholes, right? That start as these little kind of small divots or depressions. And then all of a sudden they open up and they can swallow a house, in a matter of minutes. That is what these unaddressed voids or deficits can become in the heart and life of a leader. And so getting the light on it where the darkness is, giving voice to things that have been kind of muted or it's almost like something has their hand over its mouth. When you're able to break out of isolation, you are instantly in a better place. Like you immediately, just the awareness that someone else is with you moves you so far forward, even if there's difficult work to be done. So don't stay in isolation. That would be my encouragement.
Oh, I love that. And I'll even add on to that. The professional side, I have got got some therapists on speed dial. I've got coaches on speed dial. And all of them who know who I am and want to respect my self-agency, but are just there to tell me the truth, but also to help move me forward. Those are super important to me. And then personally, I would say just the people in my life, and you've heard us talk about our spouses, but I've got a beautiful circle of close friends who may not even know much of what I do professionally. That was super important to me. I realized a lot of my friends were a lot of my professional friends too. To be able to show up, and that's what I just did this last weekend, to be able to show up and let down and nobody is asking me about anything about what I'm writing or speaking or coaching on is super important because it helps me step out of that professional place and remember I'm just Heath. I'm just Heath and I'm just showing up and I'm loved for who I am, not for what I do. But if I kept too many personal relationships in my life that were wanting to talk to me about my professional life, it kept me a little bit stuck that that's who people really want from me. And I have to be that all the time.
You have to be on.
So I needed really mature people who just loved me for me. And it allowed me to let down and also have a boundary around my personal life, my professional life.
That's so good.
Brian, it's been so fun talking to you today. Thanks for showing up.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. We have to do it again sometime.
We totally
I feel like we have so much more we could talk about.
We have things coming down the pipe, I think, that we could partner in. And I think it was your extra 45 minutes of sleep and it was my extra half hour on the couch that made us wonderful today.
It made it wonderful today.
High five
Absolutely.
there. High five.
We go. Yeah, we got it. We got it. Absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you again for having me.
You're welcome. And everyone, Brian and I both are cheering you on. Well done. Thanks so much for listening in. It was a great conversation, wasn't it? Wow. Check the show notes for any additional resources. Also, maybe where to find our guests. And if you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review. It sure helps us out. Thanks so much. We are always cheering you on.